Hello, and welcome back to the Practical Microservices stream. I almost pressed the end stream button again today, just like I did yesterday. So clever me. Let's see, not a lot of stuff to announce, but I just like a big part of this stream is sharing things that will help you and improve your life. So I just came across an article that reminded me of a classic from my younger days, but it's the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy text adventure game, which you can get to on the BBC's website. And this thing is just glorious. You've never done text adventures, I don't know. Give this one a shot. And there's some real frustrating, challenging puzzles in there, but yeah, give it a shot and then comment. Come here to the chat, comment, and tell me about your experiences with it, because I think this thing is well worth its time, and the 5-book trilogy is also worth your time. Anyway, I'm going to close this now. And I've just noticed that the little bit in the lower left of the stream showing what we're actually doing is not accurate. So I'm going to change that real quick here. Any day I get to use Notepad is a good day. So we are continuing with the identity component. I vary so often between calling it the identity component and just identity component. I don't like the latter because it reminds me of Apple and how they talk about iPhone and iPad, not the iPhone and the iPad. It sounds goofy to me, but they also run a multi-billion-dollar company and I don't. So I don't know, take your advice from wherever you choose to. All right. So yesterday we kind of closed off with me wondering about how to render the emails. And so from SB Ditto's contributions yesterday and thinking about it today. Oh, cool. There's today's Practical Microservices Daily email. If you were to go sign up for that, that would be awesome. Just go to practicalmicroservices.com. And if you're not sure, you can see the archive of all of them. Been doing one every day, except for Sundays since December 5th. I did one on a Sunday once, but I don't know. Didn't feel right to me. I like to take Sunday as a day of religious observance. Anyway, what am I saying? Right. Built it with Hugo, if that's interesting to you, if you ever want to talk Hugo. Anyway, let's come back to the code here. So the problem that we were having was we need to render the email and put we need 3 things from the email to put into our message: the subject, the text version of the email, and the HTML version of that email. And so we need a thing that renders that. And there was that really useful node package called email templates that lets us just render the email without trying to send it. It gets us the text in the HTML and the subject, and we can have pug templates to represent each of those parts. The actual content of the emails that we had in the book was really simple. It just said, "Welcome to the site." So that template is not what you would use in a production environment. So we can keep it simple like that. In the Ruby world, I don't know of a gem that gives that simple, just render me the email interface that email templates does. There's Action Mailer, which is part of the Ruby on Rails project, but my current understanding is that it will actually try to send the emails, and that's not what we're after. That's the job of our send email component, but its job is to just deal with the mechanics of sending emails. And so the actual text of what would go into that email, that's the responsibility of whoever needs to send it, not the sending thing. And why would we organize it that way? Well, the reason is because what goes into the email, I view that as a function of the actual business process that's happening. In this case, registering a user, and not the job of the thing that actually does the mechanics of sending it. If we put the actual content of the email into the send email component, which we could do, and then in theory, it could observe that a user had registered and it drive the sending of that registration notification, what that would mean is every time we do some new process that needs to send an email, we would have to go modify that send email component. And that would mean that this component couldn't really have a proper owner. And so we might get blocked and have conflicts trying to edit that thing. Now, they might not be terrible, because I doubt in such a situation, different teams would be editing each other's templates. But at the same time, I like the sending of the email, that is part of the registration process. When someone registers, that is one of our rules that we send them a welcome email. And so I think that belongs with the registration process and not with the thing that does the mechanics of actually sending the email. So that's why we are rendering the text in one place and sending it in another. In this particular project, and with how far it went, it largely wouldn't have made a difference, but that's how I think about it. So we need to build something that renders the email. And kind of the discussion we were having at the end of the stream yesterday was, is this a stateful thing that needs a dependency that we would need to control in a test environment? Neat. I just get all kinds of calls during the stream. So here's what I'm going to do. Something that I would probably do well to add to my little checklist that's sitting over there. And that is hit do not disturb mode on my phone, which will then propagate to every Apple device I've ever looked at, apparently. That's neat. Now, it's kind of nice that it's consistent across, but sometimes it catches me by surprise. Anyway, all right. So is the output of this renderer something that we would need to control in a test environment? If so, absolutely, it would need to be a dependency so that we could control it. But I don't think that is the case. Or do I? Wait, now I'm going back on the decision here. Let's think through this. We don't make it a dependency. Suppose it's just some module, like pretending we're in some other file. In the identity component, we have a module render email. I don't know, something like that. And then it could have a call, or a self.call rather, because we're not going to actually do anything with it. And maybe within here, we could have a class called email. Not to be confused with nothing else in here, because there's nothing else in here called email except for a few local variables. That's fine. But I mean, it's not really a class, it's more of a struct. Ooh, I don't remember how to do structs. We can look that up, but whatever, fine. Let's just call it a class for now. And that thing could have a subject on it. It could have a text version, and it could have an HTML. And then the job of this render email call method would be to return a new instance of that. Right, so then both the test could call it with the data that we have, which I guess would be an email address. The handler could also call it, and we could make sure that the values are the same. It isn't actually this renderer that's under test. And in fact, it's so simple and so hard coded, if you will. Because if you remember, let's go back and look at those templates that we're working from. There is the extent of the registration email that we send. It just says, welcome to the site. There's no talk of who the user is, etc. That wouldn't bother me at all. This thing, okay, so if it were just like that, I think that could work just fine for the present design of the system and its current ambitions. If, though, we ever expanded this into actually needing to render an email thing, like suppose we were getting paid to build this, I would probably look in to see if there already is a Ruby thing that does this. Yeah, that would probably be. Did I really? I swear to you. I do actually know the Ruby programming language. Sometimes you wouldn't be able to tell from watching me on this stream, though. Anyway, yeah, I'd look for maybe if there's something that already just renders the email for us. Maybe Action Mailer, you can separate that part out. My quibbles with certain design choices in Rails aside, if you can build something that uses Action Mailer in such a way that you contain the fallout from these design decisions that I quibble with, then the time savings could be worth bringing that in. Anyway, all right, fine. So we do this, we call it, if we expand it though, if we kept our own custom renderer like this, we could later promote it to be, promote's not the right term, but just modify it to be an actual dependency and have a substitute. Then we could make sure it's called with the right things, because that's what we're really after with it. But I am going to go with this standalone renderer for right now. So I'm just going to put that there. This class will actually be, or this file will actually get loaded right now because I just put it in the handler. So what I'm going to do is comment all of that out. And like legit, I'm not going to independently test this module class. I just don't think it's worth it. We will get the test coverage we need by just testing the handler, I think. I may come to regret that decision, but here we are. So we already have that local variable. I didn't delete the comment. That's fine. So what we would want to do then is get the rendered email. Does it need to be controlled? I don't think so. So I'm going to say no. We would want to use the render email module. And just to make it look like how it might work if it actually did something, we could just pass in that email address right there. I'm questioning a little bit not using the word address here. We are not free to change that at present in the message definitions because that was decided previously. But I don't know. I'm not confused by this, but I'm also very familiar with it. So at this point, our test will fail. I'm trying to think, like, what is the correct term? There's like, I talked with the Eventide guys a couple weekends ago, and like, there's a few different states a test can be in. And I think not, all right, there's passing, not passing, and failing. And a failing test is one whose results have no meaning. And so having added that line of code to call that render email module, the test will fail. And that is because we don't, that module doesn't exist yet. And so whatever output the test gives after that point is meaningless. I mean, it tells us we need to write the module, of course, but it speaks nothing to the correctness of the code. So if the test doesn't fail, then either it passes or doesn't pass. But fail has a particular meaning, if I'm remembering the terminology correctly. There's a whole, like, I don't know, how to test things. There's a whole body of knowledge around this and study that has been done. And so often when we come up through the ranks in software development, we don't get exposed to any of that. And that's a real shame because so many different human endeavors, the things you would do to make any of them work are the same, even cross domain. So industrial test, yeah, it has things to teach us about how to do software development properly. So anyway, thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Let's get back into the programming stream here. All right, so I predict that running this, it will fail saying name error on render email. Saw some red. That's what I like to see. Uninitialized constant render email name error. Great. So we need to make this cannot make changes modifiable as op. Okay, there we go. We're just going to put it at the root of the component directory. Not like the whole repository, but underneath the component bit. Which may be a silly place to put it, but you know, things evolve and they grow. As of right now, this is the only place that needs to render an email. You could imagine this project growing, in which case we might extract the render email bit here into a separate gem, but I'm not going to worry about that today. Just in the interest of time largely, since I'm not actually going to develop a real email renderer, let's just keep it simple. The interface is clean. There isn't cross-contamination of the code. This would be a straightforward extraction later on. So we might end up having to like change the namespacing here or something, but the rest of it would be easy to deal with. So with that file open, we are going to open module identity component because that's where we are. And we are in module render email. And let's just go ahead and put our self.call in there. It would receive an email. Let's call it 2. And for that to work, we would have to add it to the loader file. So require identity component render email. Now the test should pass again. Didn't. What did I do wrong? Looks like a syntax error. Oh, yeah, I spelled... oh, my goodness. Come on, son. There we go. Right there. Nope. Spelled require wrong. This version of Ruby, you have to do that. Oh, I wasn't expecting this failure, though. Oh, right. Because the test continued. So prediction was correct in the sense that it did go past this line without crashing, but I forgot that we had written this assertion right here. So we do not have this subject local variable. That's fine. Now that we have our rendered email, we can add to our preconditions and say that subject should equal rendered email.subject or fail. And now we should get a runtime error on line 16 because, well, no, we'll get a no method error subject on nil class because I keep pointing to the screen as if anyone watching this can see what is on my screen. So this method that we're calling here returns nil. Nil does not have a subject method on it. Undefined method subject for nil class. That is what I want to see. I don't mind seeing an error so long as I'm expecting the error. It's the unexpected ones that are a pain. So what we could do with this, I need to look up how to do a struct in Ruby because I don't want to do a full-blown class for this. So Ruby struct, class struct, Okay, you give it some symbols. You can put methods on it as well. Convenient way to bundle a number of attributes together using accessor methods without having to write an explicit class. Generates new subclasses that hold a set of members and their values. For each member, a reader and writer method is created similar to module adder accessor. These hold data, and objects are first and foremost not data. This seems like a good light way to do this. Oh, I see. And so then the initializer has positional arguments that correspond to the symbols that you pass in there. Okay. That should be fine. We can also put definitions in there. But here is the dirty little secret. We don't actually do anything with any information passed to this. So we can say email equals struct dot new. What would the initializer take? Nothing, because because we don't do pass anything to the renderer in the book code. Right, here's where we call it. We just pass that empty object right there. So no, you don't say do there. Oh, this doesn't feel brilliant. So let's just go get our text here. It's placeholder is what it is. And so I am willing to live with that. How does the text come out of this? Is there a plain text version or do we just ignore that? I'm not sure, but we'll put one in. That will just be a simple version of this. So let's get the subject first because that's what we're after. Grab that, come back to our component here. That is the text there. And whoopsie, let's pretend we didn't write these because we don't have a test that needs them yet, or an assertion. And what we'll return here is an email.new. I didn't make a prediction. I thought that was going to work. It didn't. So where'd we go wrong? Probably a typo. Wrong number of arguments given 0, expected 1. Is that because... Oh, it's because we called this wrong. So it does need to have... Right, struct needs to hold something. Ooh, so maybe a struct is the wrong thing to use. Which honestly, like, how much extra work would it be to say class email? Our initializer here wants to take something, so def initialize. And this would take a 2. We don't have to do anything with it. Okay, what do I expect will happen now? I think... What do I think? First of all, that the assertion will fail at the very least. So that looks like correct syntax. We have an initializer, given that we're passing something to it. When this render email gets called, we just return an instance of that class. Yeah, we don't have to make actual instances of the class here. Could just return a hash or something, but I don't want to do that. So let's see here. And we are passing it an email address that we ignore. That's fine. And we have a subject method on it. I believe what we'll get is that the assertion fails because send.subject is still currently nil. That's sad. What happened here? Wrong number of arguments. Render email. Line 3. Given 0, expected 1. Well, where did we call it? Oh, right. Oh, silly me. Yeah. No. We don't need this right now. Because that's not what's receiving the to address. That's coming in. We pass it to the call. Right. Okay, failing assertion. Or not passing assertion. That's good. That's good. All right. So with that being the case, then we would need to render the email here as well. And it seems silly to just like have the test call this thing and to have the handler call it as well. But that's what we want to make sure is that the handler is calling this other thing with the correct data. And we could write the test with a substitute so that we just capture what it was called with, and we would want to make sure that it was called with the correct data, which is basically what we do with the writer, right? It captures what we called it with, the entire message in that case. But it works, but it just feels slightly off to me for some reason, and I can't quite put my finger on it. Anyway, let's do this. So render email, call it, and this is where we're supposed to include the email address, which comes from registered.email. Like so. I'm tempted to just call that email, but we've just been saying email to refer to the address in so many places that I think that would be confusing. So now that we have that, let's move this up here. We can set send dot subject to be equal to rendered email dot subject. Now I believe the test should completely pass. Great. All right, let's do. This is a useful test, I believe, because what we're saying is we're making sure that the handler is actually populating those fields correctly. Even though we're calling it in both places, I don't think that invalidates that. So let's get the text version of this test. This will be more code monkeying here. We will get first, no local variable text, name error. Great. I'm going to go ahead and close that message file at this point. I think I will not forget that there is an HTML attribute that we need to fill out. So let's get the text here, rendered email.text or fail. No method text on that email class. Indeed. Oh, interesting. I didn't mean to put this class as a child of the identity component. I meant it to be a child of rendered email. So let's move that real quick. We should still get the same error and everything else should work. Yeah, okay, cool. So we can come in here and uncomment this line. And the text there will be literally the same, which skips us ahead one. So let's do that. Now we get the runtime. Oh, no, we won't. No, we do will. I did put it on line 17 there. We'll get the runtime error because rendered email.text returns nil. So that will trigger the fail. So runtime error, line 17. Right there. Great. So let's go ahead and add you. And now everything passes. Oh, assertion. Oh, right. Yeah, silly me. We've still got to attach it here. Wouldn't there be some way to just like, we could use the SetAttributes thing. We'll do that as a refactor. Let's get it working. Works now. And then let's do a refactor and use the SetAttributes module. Hey, SB Ditto. How's it going? Made progress. Going with the separate renderer. Well, the test calls it, and so does the handler. That's the plan. Thank you for your contribution to the discussion yesterday to help me get something I was comfortable with. But in the meantime, let's add this other attribute test here. So HTML goes there, HTML goes there, and HTML goes there. Things going well, just busy. I hear you there. There's always so much to do. I think back to like when I was single or when I was married with no children and how I used to say, I don't have time for things. And it's just kind of silly. It'd be fun to, I don't know. You know how it is when you're young and you don't understand a lot of things. So we're going to get a a name error because there's no local variable HTML. Great. So we can go up here and add it. HTML, and we'll get no method error on the email class because that method doesn't exist on it. So we can come here, do that. And it really doesn't matter what actual text we put there because all it's checking to see is that it's the same. But I'm going to go get the actual text because I tell you that, like, I worked hard crafting the A/B testing to see what converted better, and all of that was just out of this world. So we'll put in our H1 there. So after I copy it, I'm just going to re-hand type it. That makes a lot of sense. I do need to convert it from pug. I know I said I wasn't going to do any pug to HTML conversions on the stream anymore, so I apologize for doing that one right there. That was a big deal. I also skipped the step where we verify that we have the runtime error getting hit on line 18. There it is. Okay, good. So let's fix that back. And now it won't pass because we're still not setting it. So we get an assertion failure at this point, and then we come back to the handler and drop you in there and drop you in there. One of these days, I'm going to have to learn how fixtures work in Eventide because I think that some of this repetitive nature of tests over here might be able to avoid some of that. Generally, like, typing doesn't scare me because typing is almost never the reason why things aren't shipping as fast as I would like them to. Like, if legit that is your bottleneck in software development, if your organization isn't hitting all the targets that it wants to hit because your developers can't type fast enough, I envy you. What a great problem to have, because that can just be fixed with like a cool typing tutor game. Anyway, I believe we're done with this renderer. So what I wanted to see if we could do was SetAttributes is a module that Eventide defines supplies made by them or your devs suck at typing. Yeah, exactly right. You can fix that. You can fix sucking at typing without having to like rewrite your entire system. So here we go. Receiver source. So under the hood, when there's a follow, the message class, I'm not sure exactly where. Well, why not be sure when we can take another rabbit hole and go look at it, because we want to increase our understanding. It's not enough to get things working. We have to understand why they do. At least if we don't want to be fighting fires. 0.1 words per minute, then the real problems show up. Okay, yeah, but still, I think that's such an easier fix, and I'm pretty sure you think the same thing. My way of going along with the joke is to pretend like... Anyway, message. Here we go. Is there a follow method in here? There is. Thought there was. Oh, it's probably in this folder right here. There we go. So follow calls copy, which calls SetAttributes. So this SetAttributes, which is basically take source, copy things onto target, receiver, and give ways to exclude certain things, and so on and so forth, is independent of the follow method. So we can make use of it. And we would just call it, and it takes the receiver. What am I setting them onto? And what is the source of them? And honestly, I think that's all we would need to do, because it doesn't have any attributes. Can't help but pick things apart even when you should probably just leave it alone. Yeah, right. We're under no gun here anyway. There's no deadline to port all of this. So this is learning time. So let's learn. As I have JK sitting in that lower left terminal window, that's Vim, right? You start using Vim and you type JKs all over the place because you're trying to find your cursor in whatever program you're running that happens to not be Vim. NeoVim technically is what I use. Okay, so now interesting question is, when we've used SetAttributes before, it has been something like a message that includes data schema. I don't know if SetAttributes will just work if you just have a class with certain methods, or if they have to be declared using something else. So let's see what happens. Best case scenario, this passes. Worst case, if it fails, it's going to be because rendered email can't be used as a source, is what I'm predicting. That's more red than I would have liked to see. So what do we have here? Object source is missing the include mapping, SetAttributes data source object. Okay, so no, you do have to explicitly state what are the attributes that would be copied. That makes some sense. So oh, you put attr accessors on them. Oh, wait, no, sorry. That is the receiver there. The source here is just a hash, so that works. An object source. Oh, okay. When using an object data source, the list of attributes to be copied must be specified, or else an error will be raised. That is a typo. Oh. I want to correct said typo as my generous contribution back to this community that has helped so much. So we don't typically explicitly state those when we're doing a message set attribute, but that's probably because under the hood, that is already happening for us. Unless there's... Well, wait a second. Let's go look at it again. This is messaging copy. And include and all that, that's just passed through. But what do we see in follow? Copy, preceding message. Also just copied through. I'm curious how the... I'm going to close this and then split it the other direction. I'm curious how, when we call message follow without explicitly specifying one of those arrays, we don't get the same error. So somewhere there needs to be some default for that mapping, but I don't see where that's coming from. Right? Because that's just passing through whatever we received, which are by default nil. And right here, those are also defaulted to nil. So this is follow, this is copy. Let's go open message again real quick. And follow, we just extend it. Let me go back and look at the handler code. Yeah, so we just call follow. I might have missed something in the reading there. This is what we call when we're doing that. Preceding message, subsequent message. So if it's nil itself, If it's a class, then we're going to build an instance of it. I didn't know that you could just call that with a subsequent message. That's interesting to learn. But we still haven't come up with a copy include or exclude value here. So we will call copy, which is right here. And that's just all passed through. How does that work without failing? Receiver is nil, receiver is self. Oh, here we go. There we go. That's where it is. Okay, yeah. So if include is empty, put all. Yeah, right here. Sorry, I wasn't looking at the chat there, SB Ditto. But yes, you're exactly right. There it is on line 24 of lib messaging message copy. Okay. The world is right again. That's fine. Or at least this one section of it. So we would need to put in what we want to include, which by the time we're done with this is so many things that it might have been simpler to just do it the old way. So we want subject, text, and HTML like so. Okay, I think that should pass now. And it did. Okay, so let's see here. I am going to copy that line and then undo a few things. So is this better or is this better? I'm going to put that on several lines so that you can see it all. There's part of me that likes the set attributes call, but I don't know if that's just the part of me that's like, oh, look, I know all this stuff about event type and what all the cool options are that aren't immediately available to other people. I'm so smart. Or if it's the like, that's actually better. If there were more attributes to include, it's kind of nice to be able to just come to this list and add a symbol for it. But which one aids in understanding? Like this one requires some knowledge of set attributes to know how this works. I don't think that's that hard to understand. It's sensible the way it's put together. Set attributes onto what, from where, and which property should we include. But this is just like even more accessible, I would say. The repetition doesn't offend me that much, and it may even have around the same number of characters. They're pretty close to one another. This scans nicely. It's pretty clear where the things are coming from. I'm gonna go with removing that and just leave it like so. Because we're already doing a similar thing for the email ID. It's a little jarring to me to look and see the set attributes call for some of the properties, but not for all of them. All right, that runs. Hard we get. We're actually writing the send command now. That's great. So the next step would be to get the client portion of the send email component working. We never did that. And then this would all get refactored to I don't know, something else. I think we would end up just removing messages and then calling it with the data that we want. But before I destroy everything that currently works, go ahead and commit this and push it up. And then next time we come back, we will be working on doing that client portion. My plan is to do some expansion of the event type examples into more of a fully fleshed out system. I'm not going to open a bank. That's not going to happen, but it would be nice to have like the Rails application, it doesn't have to be Rails, but just a web app that leverages the funds transfer and account components and some view data components that aggregate things back, because it'd be nice to see them in context of a fully functioning system. I haven't figured out all the code. Yeah. If you hit the Bang code, I can't make it show up on the screen, I don't think, but near the bottom center of what you can see there is the Bang what doing, Bang code, Bang book, and all that. If you type any of those into the chat, then Nightbot will do something. And I'm pretty sure the what doing is out of date. But yeah, there you go. So right there is where you can find all of the code for all these repos that we've been working in. So I'm going to go ahead and push this. Let's just do it now. Otherwise I'll forget. Send command is written. Cool. Okay, the current state of that is up there. And let me now do my note here. So next, add the client to send email component, and then refactor this to use that. That is the breadcrumb for the next time. Yeah, so okay, so expanding funds transfer and account component into a full system that shows all of the pieces. I haven't figured out yet what the schedule is going to be. I'm kind of thinking like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So what it is like I'm going to stream most days at noon my time because I enjoy doing this. It's helping me learn. It's nice to connect with people. Sometimes there is going to be some impending thing that needs doing, not like work related, but like I've done a lot of meetup prep on the stream. But when I don't have a thing like that, it's like, okay, well then what do I do on the stream on those days? And I think the change I'm going to make is it's been all porting video tutorials to Eventide all the time. Thinking of doing like Monday, Wednesday, Friday porting video tutorials will be the fallback. And then Tuesday, Thursday, the fallback will be expanding on the funds transfer and account component examples. Worth noting that while the experimentation is believed it will be useful in the wider Eventide community, it's not like an officially sanctioned thing. So it's partially in the service of developing some official examples, but until it is explicitly stated these are endorsed as such, don't take them that way. We're experimenting on the stream. This is what we do here. So just like it's the 1960s or something. Anyway, I'm going to call it there. So I'll take out my notes and yeah. Oh, worth calling out, I think, YouTube practical microservices stream archives. I don't know that I talk much about this, but I've been putting every single one of these up on YouTube. So if you really want to see all that stuff, you can. They usually come out the next time I stream, which from like January 20 to February 21st was a long time. But I'm pretty close to getting affiliate status on Twitch, which is pretty exciting. Have the number of followers necessary. And I believe it's once you have affiliate status, the agreement that you make is you won't put your stream up someplace else until 24 hours after it ended. And so just the workflow that I have is finish a day of streaming, click the export it to YouTube, but I don't actually, and then get the previous session stream and mark it public at that point. So it goes to YouTube private, and then the next time I stream, I mark it public. So that's the flow there. But anyway, hey, thanks for coming along again. Good to see you, SP Ditto. Thanks for stopping by. And to everyone else, have a lovely day. And as always, happy coding.